Ever wonder why you look or taste the way you do? Blame your DNA. It's behind your glutes, your hair, and even how bitter your morning coffee feels. Some traits are jackpot luck. Others you can train or tweak. For example, the shape of your glutes is basically written in your DNA. Which one you get depends on 3 things: the way your pelvic bones are built, where your fat likes to hang out, and how your muscles hook onto those bones. Obviously, you can't change your bone structure, but you can level up what you've got by building muscle, tweaking fat levels, and finding the right exercises for your body type. As for your pelvis, it can tell you what workouts to focus on. That's the thing about genetics. It's basically a slot machine. Every now and then, somebody hits the jackpot and gets the perfect body for some kind of sport. Sure, athletes can train, bulk up, or sharpen their skills, but some things, like height, wingspan, or hand size, you just can't fake them. They make a huge difference. Becoming a pro is insanely hard. Only about 1.2% of college basketball players ever make it to the NBA. On that level, even tiny genetic advantages matter. And yeah, some people literally have sports genes. Take the ACE gene. It's tied to blood pressure and muscle growth, and depending on your version, it can give you either beast-level endurance or Hulk-like strength. Olympic swimmers often have the power version, which makes sense since races are usually short and explosive. Elite runners, on the other hand, often carry the endurance version, especially the ones crushing long-distance events. Then there's the ACTN3 gene, aka the speed gene. It controls fast-twitch muscle fibers, the ones you use to sprint, jump, or lift heavy. There are 3 combos depending on what you got from your parents. And in Kenya, according to one study, 99% of people have at least one sprint copy of this gene. No wonder the country produces so many elite runners. But of course, it's not just genetics. Evolution and environment play a huge role too. The Kalenjin tribe, for example, makes up less than 0.1% of the world's population, but snagged nearly 40% of all international distance running medals in the late 80s and 90s. All because they lived in the Great Rift Valley at high altitude. Hello, extra red blood cells for oxygen. Plus, the hot, dry climate favors tall, lean bodies, perfect for running. Combine that with culture and training and you've got marathon records. In fact, 6 of the top 10 fastest marathon times ever are all from that region. Genes affect the way you taste food too. Scientists have found that a single gene decides how bitter certain foods taste, and that one gene can totally change how you feel about veggies. You see, everyone gets 2 copies of the gene. If you've got any 2 AVI copies, you're basically immune. You won't notice the bitterness. 1 AVI and 1 PAV, you'll pick up some bitterness, but it's manageable. 2 PAVs though, and you're what they call a super taster. And for super tasters, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage taste like straight-up poison. Even coffee and dark chocolate can feel like punishment. Researchers studied 175 adults and realized that super tasters were about 2.5 times less likely to eat veggies compared to everyone else. And they didn't drown food in sugar or salt to cover up the bitter taste. They just avoided the veggies altogether. So, your taste buds might not be dramatic. It could just be your DNA. Many people think that genes are like a menu. Brown hair? Check. Risk of heart problems? Maybe. Your parents and grandparents mix their genetic ingredients together, and you pop out with your own recipe. But it turns out the reaction to stress might actually be scribbled on the recipe card too. Not just for you, but for your kids and even your grandkids. Basically, the stress you feel today could echo in your family tree. Some studies really hammer this home. For example, at Penn State, they messed with lizards, which is pretty rude. And the lizards seemed fine, but their babies were way more jumpy under stress. Mice experiments got even weirder. Scientists trained mice to be terrified of the smell of cherry blossoms. Then their kids also freaked out at the same smell, even though they'd never been trained to fear it. The fancy science word for all this is epigenetics. Basically, your DNA is like a giant switchboard. Stress doesn't change the wiring itself, but it flips certain switches on or off. Normally, most of those switches get reset. But sometimes, this reset button doesn't fully work, and those stress marks sneak through to the next generation. So think about this while stressing over that missed deadline. Your genes might also have a say in how fast your cuts and scrapes heal up. Bacteria hanging out in a wound can make healing drag on forever. But some people's wounds heal more slowly than others, and even with similar bacteria, turns out genetics is part of the story. Certain genes are linked to how many types of bacteria set up shop in a wound. Basically, the more variety of bacteria in your wound, the faster it tends to heal. Other stuff matters too, like age, some diseases, and even your ancestry. But studies claim that just 6 genetic spots on your DNA explain over half the differences in wound microbiomes between people. Another thing genes have an impact on is your teeth. Your ancestry can explain a lot about why your teeth look the way they do. And some of it even comes from Neanderthals, those cave-dwelling relatives of ours. Researchers checked out almost 900 people in Colombia with a mix of European, Native American, and African roots. They 3D scanned their teeth and matched it up with their DNA. Turns out there are 18 spots in our genes that deal with tooth size and shape, and 17 of them were totally new discoveries. One of the coolest bits was that a Neanderthal gene only showed up in people of European descent. If you've got it, your front teeth are thinner. Europeans in general had smaller teeth. There's also this gene called EDAR. That was already known to affect front teeth in East Asians. But now they found it actually affects the width of all your teeth. Some of these genes are linked to real dental problems, like teeth that don't grow in properly. And one day, dentists might actually use this info for genetic testing or even treatments. Many features of your hair are not random either. They're basically written in your DNA. Here's what's mostly genetic about your hair: its texture and type. The shape of your hair follicles decides your hair vibe. Round follicles means straight hair. Oval or twisty ones give you wavy, curly, or coily hair. The color of your hair, just like its thickness and density, is genetic too. Your genes set the speed limit and the top length of the hair. Pattern hair loss isn't just bad luck. Yep, it's genetic. Some folks' hair follicles are super sensitive to hormones, so they thin over time. Now, about curly hair specifically, it's complicated. No single gene makes your hair curly, but the TCHH gene has serious influence. It helps build your hair shaft, and certain variants slightly tip the odds toward curliness. Other genes like EDAR and FGFR2 also join the mix. Basically, your hair type is like a team project, lots of genes working together. Curly hair is usually dominant. It means that if you get the curly gene from either parent, you're more likely to have curls. Straight hair is recessive, so you need both parents to pass it down for it to show. But since multiple genes are involved in the process, you can have curly, wavy, or straight hair in the same family, even with lots of curls around. Now, remember back in school when they said your earlobes were either attached or free hanging, and it was just a simple dominant versus recessive thing? Well, that's not the full story. A massive study has looked at nearly 75,000 people and found that at least 49 genes play a role in how your earlobes turn out. It went like this. First, they studied 10,000 people, checked their ears, and sequenced their DNA. They only found 6 genes at that stage. Then they added a large second group, nearly 65,000 of participants, and that number jumped to 49. So yeah, your DNA isn't just a set of instructions. It's a mix of luck, history, and tiny twists that make you, well, you.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.